It's Mile here. Basically, I'm going to be doing a series where I go over each of the Straw Hats bounties. I tried to make a video where I could go over them individually, but it seems that would be way too long for a normal video, so I'm going to split them up into individual parts and see if I can talk about them in more detail. I'm going to be going in order, so let's start with Luffy. So, I've seen a lot of different videos on bounties in general, and some of them have had very specific reasonings. It tends to be bigger YouTubers. Then there's smaller ones that tend to have, I don't know, stranger reasonings that are like, I believe Sanji will get a bounty of 850 million berries because I think Sanji is really strong. That's the entire reasoning, but I'm going to try to not do that. I'm actually going to try to change the formula, look at each of the Straw Hats former bounties and why they got those particular bounties in the first place, and then kind of try to decide what their next bounties will be. Not just the bounties that they're getting now in Wano, but what more of it could be even further after Wano, into the last saga of the story. So let's start with Luffy, of course. 30 million after Arlong Park. So Luffy got this bounty for a few different reasons. First of all, he basically became the king of the East Blue, essentially, by defeating all the big players, and we got to see all the Marines come together and be like, okay, this is the guy that we should look out for, and he's getting this bounty because he defeated Buggy with a bounty of 15 million berries, Don Creek with a bounty of 17 million berries, Arlong with the bounty of 20 million. I still don't really understand why he got that bounty. I feel like it should have been higher, but then I kind of thought about it a bit, and it's also kind of connected to how Luffy got his final bounty, which is Colonel Nezumi. I don't really know why he's called that. Basically, he's a captain. I looked it up on the wiki, which is like a few levels down from Admiral or Vice Admiral, and that's the same rank that Smoker got after taking credit for defeating Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Luffy gets a lot of attention from this guy, who was also keeping Crocodile out of the Marines' eyes, even though he was doing some bad stuff, let's just say. And he basically says to the Marines, this guy's Luffy, he's really strong. He not only took down Arlong, but also had the power to destroy Arlong Park itself. All the Marines are like, okay, so this guy, he could be a big player. First of all, he has a D in his name. Don't really need to mention why that's something to be aware of. Second of all, his devil fruit, which now we know has bigger connections than we originally realized. It could have all sorts of directions that it could go. We don't really know. But either way, Who's Who was captured for this reason relating to this devil fruit because he wasn't even able to get it, and imprisoned for 4 years. So yeah, serious business. Luffy's next bounty, 100 million post Alabasta. So as I mentioned earlier, Luffy did not take credit for defeating Mr. Crocodile, but either way, he still did a lot over the course of not just Alabasta itself, but the saga leading up to that, where you had Whiskey Peak. He could take out a bunch of notable bounty hunters, and then you have Drum Island, where he takes down Wapple. I don't know if that's much of an accomplishment or if the Marines even saw that, but it's something. And then of course you get to Alabasta. I guess Luffy didn't fight many people specifically besides Crocodile, but either way, he was there and he was around. He was recognized by not like the citizens of Alabasta necessarily, but he was recognized by the Gorosei, and they said, okay, this guy is up and coming, and he's gotten multiple big bounty boosts very soon together. Also D in his name, also possibly the devil fruit. So 300 million post Endy's lobby. So there could be a lot of specific reasons for this. We weren't really given a specific reason as to why he got the bounty he did, but we know all the things he did. Took down Rob Lucci, Bluno, I guess. He was also around, and he was blamed for a bunch of things that happened in Water 7, like the assassination of, what's it called? What's his name? Iceberg. And so he gets notoriety for that. Luffy could have gotten a higher bounty after this point, in my opinion, because of course he did declare war on the entire world government, and I'm sure Spondum went in detail as to saying why their entire crew was an abomination, which is why the whole crew got bounties and bounty increases. So I feel like not necessarily like they were going to give Luffy a higher bounty, but give the whole crew a starting bounty, so we all know that these guys are enemies of the world government. So next bounty, 400 million. This is after a few different sagas. Well, first of all, we had all the stuff with Moria. He took down another 7 warlords. He wasn't recognized for that, but either way, the Marines and other people know that. Next, Sabaody. Luffy kind of punched a celestial dragon. Yeah, that happened. I feel like that could warrant a whole 100 million berry increase on its own, but there's also Marineford, I guess, and 3D2Y, which is the reason, I guess, why he's most recognized for having a bounty increase, going into the biggest marine facility at the time, and basically, I don't want to say vandalizing it, but I guess it's seen as an act of vandalism in the Marines' eyes. So, yeah, we don't really know why that happened, but for the time, it's still a very, very high bounty increase. So then his next bounty, 500 million. After Dressrosa, he defeats Don Flamingo and takes credit for it. And this was a big step up, especially at the time, because he had a bounty that was so close to Ace's, of course, which was 550 million. So it's showing that Luffy's getting to a higher tier, especially for the time, it was pretty high, as with all his other former bounties. But then I feel like his 100 million berry bounty was very, very high at the time, but right after we get introduced to both Doflamingo and Kuma, who had bounties of 296 million and 340 million before they were frozen. So that was kind of like an upper echelon. And then right after Luffy gets his 500 million, we get to see Jack, who has an even billion berry bounty, which is twice the amount that Luffy had at that point, and also pretty much the highest one that we had known of at that point. So at that point, we had Luffy's, which was like really high, and then we get right above that. So then we have his next bounty, 1.5 billion, which is, of course, very large. I kind of wasn't expecting that in the time, but of course we got it. Gotta acknowledge that. It's 3 times the bounty he had before. And because of that, it can tell us a few things. First of all, Luffy's bounty at that point was higher than any commander that we've known of, and probably higher than any commander that we will see in the story besides Ben Beckman, who I believe will probably have a bounty closer to 2 or 3 billion, in that range, because Shanks' crew has like higher bounties relative. So I think all of the 4 of them, Shanks included, are gonna have bounties over 2 billion. But that's just me, or maybe that, I feel like a lot of people have that opinion, but you know what I mean. So Luffy has a bounty that's higher than all the commanders, giving him the title of the 5th Emperor. He beat Katakuri and Whole Cake, giving him a bounty increase, and he even clashed with Big Mom. Morgan's also played that up a lot, which also helped to increase his bounty. But then, after that, what do we get? We get all of the Yonko, and Roger, of course, which gives us some of the highest bounties we will see in the entire series, besides possibly Dragons and Luffy's final bounty, but we'll get into that in a minute. So this leads us to now predicting what Luffy's bounty could be after this. So at this point in the story, I think it's going to be higher than any commander including Ben Beckman, and I think his bounty will be closer to 3 billion. So Luffy's gonna get one that's above 3 billion, and that's what I personally believe. I don't think Luffy's bounty is gonna fully triple yet, and the reason why is because that would be 4.5 billion, which would be higher than even Kaido's, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, but it's definitely higher than Big Mom and Shanks's. And I don't think Luffy's gonna get a bounty that's higher than Shanks. That just makes sense to me because Luffy, I think his final test before he finally gets to the end and gets to the One Piece and all of that. So first of all, proving himself, I think he might fight one-on-one against Big Mom and then beat her in Elbaf because, first of all, Big Mom has a lot of ties to Elbaf. Second of all, it would be a very good place to put Luffy's strength and be able to definitively say that he can beat a Yonko and he's ready to go onto the status of the King of the Pirates. Second of all, he has to be acknowledged by Shanks. He could also fight Shanks. I don't feel like that's going to be a full-on fight, but it's definitely going to be a way for Shanks to acknowledge Luffy, and that's going to be the point after Elbaf where he gets a bounty that's higher than pretty much all of the Yonko we know, except for Whitebeard and Roger. So I think after that point, you'll get an even 5 billion, and then after the events of Laugh Tale, he's going to get the 5656, which is predicted to be what most people think because Gomu, Gomu. So after Wano now, I think we're going with 3.5 billion. That's a safe bet for me. It makes the most sense to me. So yeah, that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Yeah, video interaction, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. You guys are all great. Bye.